All right, Peter. All right, but so yeah, welcome to Ditch Digger CEO. We're happy to have you today, Peter. We love reaching out to people that we think are leaders in their space. The goal is to inspire others to think differently and to hopefully eliminate envy and get people to say, man, you know what? I'm done being envious. I'm going out and do it on my own, right?
I love that mission.
Too many people, I think, sit back and don't think they can do it. Don't think they can access success. And I've been blessed that I've never had that mentality in my head, but I know there's people that change from one that has a little that envy mentality to eventually a mentality where they're going to take on the world. And that's amazing when they can change. So that's what your job is today, brother. Like mine and Robbie's, we're constantly wanting to talk about the American dream and all the great things we have in this country that we can take advantage of that you can't actually get everywhere else. So Peter, introduce yourself. We'd like to start with maybe a little bit about your business and what you do. Then go backwards and tell us where you started in life kind of as a kid and what gave you the inspiration that maybe someday you wanted to do something as an entrepreneur.
Sure. Well, and I love, what you said earlier, Gary, because I'm in the transformation business. I certainly didn't start there. I have owned and still own several different companies. My biggest, that was on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies for a couple of years in a row, is Gem Advertising. We're a marketing agency. Right now, we're helping folks transition onto the virtual world and understand how to build relationships and sell in our, digital world brought on by the zombie apocalypse here in 2020. Now, over the course of our history, we've done a ton of stuff, worked with, startups to the Fortune 500 and even threw a party for Warren Buffett once. So I'm sure we'll get into some of those stories. But I was always an ambitious kid growing up, I have to say. Now in my, I'm not going to call it adulthood because that would imply I'm mature and I'm not. But, now that I'm to this stage, I have my fingers in a lot of different businesses. And as a kid, I had my fingers in a lot of different things. I was in figure skating, I was in skiing, I was in theater, I was in acting and swimming and all this stuff. That was, thanks to my parents. And so I got a broad sort of exposure to a lot of great things. And the one challenge that stuck was figure skating. As a very serious figure skater, trained for, what was hopefully the Olympics, did not work out. But there was nothing more difficult than that, guys. Like after you fall on your ass in front of 3,000 people alone in a cold drink wearing tights, nothing is challenging. Nothing is difficult.
I love it.
So
I agree.
Gave me quite the foundation growing up.
That's cool. And I mentor former NFLers here and there. I was actually on the NFL executive board, or if you want to call it, for some time. And it was fun to get to know some of these NFLers. And these are world-class athletes, of course, right? And some of them Hall of Famers even. And I loved talking to them about what their next steps were, whether they're just retired or even 10 years out. Because boy, they were on the biggest stage in the world. They're a world-class athlete. They had to work at a world-class level to be great. Take those same attributes and do it again, right? If you can. It just seems like sometimes people look back at that big stage and they're like with a crutch, I'll never have that again. My life, the best part of my life is past me and all that. And I think that, boy, that's amazing. Whether you're a professional athlete, a Division I athlete, whatever, that's an amazing platform to know that you could perform in front of the biggest stage and you should have a lot of confidence in the world the rest of your life, right? So yours is the perfect example to be able to fall, like you're saying, in front of a crowd of people on some, that ice, right? I mean, gosh, that's got to be an incredible experience in a negative way temporarily, but boy, get back up, and if you get back up and you can kick butt again, you just got over a big hurdle. You can do that the rest of your life and be successful, right?
Well, what you just said is true if you believe it. And also, if your career is done, you'll never be successful again. That's true if you believe it.
That's true.
So
that's right. No, that's awesome. All right. So tell us about some of the businesses you started. And okay, so you must have had an amazing childhood with two great parents that loved you a lot. That threw a lot of stuff at you. Hey Peter, you want to do that? Sure, we'll get you in front of that. You want to do some acting? Sure, we'll support you there. So you had that support system around you, two loving parents, huh?
Yeah, I was really fortunate in that. And one thing they also sort of instilled in me is don't do something half-ass. if you're going to do it, then strive to do it well. And if you're not going to do it well, then maybe think about not doing it. And it wasn't in a pressured sort of way. It was in you have an option to strive for excellence or not. Know that it is an option, like a deliberate choice, not something that's sort of willy-nilly. And, that was, it's funny, guys, I've actually never talked about this on a podcast before, but that was never like outright told to me either. It was always sort of present in the way they communicated about the activities that I did. There was sort of a choice out there for me to make. And I've long thought about choices. And one of the things I talk about, in my book, Honest to Greatness, is about what it honestly takes to succeed. It's about honesty, right? And one of those things is thinking long-term and having an outlook about why am I doing this? And is it because I want to have fun? Well, in that case, how do I have the most fun? Or is it because I want to be the best? In which case, how do I become the best? I think so many folks don't have that deliberateness about their lives and end up in a place where they look around and say, how did I get here? I didn't choose this. And they're exactly right. They failed to choose.
So would you call that, something I like to talk about in my travels and in front of leaders is definitive purpose, right? A very defined purpose that in your, whether it's your business, your family life, right? Your personal, your personal life, whatever, right? If you have a definitive purpose and you're focused on it, and it's simple, it can't be something too complicated. You want to be able to think about it every day. You want to be able to strive for it every day, tell people about it, right? Is that kind of the same lines in your opinion?
Yeah, I think definitely so.
And what was the first business you got into, and tell us about that, and what inspired you to start the first one?
Well, what inspired me to start it is I'm a pain in the ass. Nobody wants me to work for them. Like, trust me, I'm the person and my teachers all hated me because I was the one who questioned everything. I was like, why do we do it like that? That's not efficient. Or why don't we learn about this? That would be much more useful. And they're like, shut up, kid, which, looking back, that was sort of the seeds of being my own boss, right? It was like, I always had the mentality, the ego-driven mentality, I might add, that I can do this better. So when I got out of school, I had the fortuitous timing of it being 2008. And I had actually gotten out to help my then boss grow a chain of figure skating retail stores. We came out of that industry. We knew it well. And I had spent my high school and some college years, I had always worked since the time of 15. So I was working, of course, in the industry. And we had this big expansion plan to go from 4 stores to across the country. And then the rug got pulled out from under us. And we were left with, we used to have 180 days in payables. Now we have 0. Nobody wanted to extend credit. You guys know, it was a mess. Yeah. So we did the only logical thing that 2 entrepreneurs in that situation would do, which is we went and shot a pilot for a television reality show about figure skating. That was this makes sense. We should do this, right? How do we get more people into figure skating? Reality TV, duh, right? And so we immediately went tens of thousands of dollars into debt, shooting a pilot for a reality television show. By the way, guys, you don't need to shoot a pilot in order to go pitch a reality television show. It's a complete waste of time. It's not how it's done. We didn't know that at the time. And we kept going to production companies to introduce the idea. And they were like, yeah, but like figure skating, I don't know. Yeah, it's the most watched Olympic sport, but we were like, hello, Dancing with the Stars, ballroom dancing. Nobody gives a shit about ballroom dancing. It sucks. And look how popular that is. So yeah. But anyway, no matter how much we pointed to it and tried, it would not get picked up. So then we were stuck in debt, and now it's like 2009, and we said to ourselves, well, maybe we should like go make money, like real business owners. And so we took the team we had built to shoot the pilot and said, why don't we go do video production? And that was a decent idea because YouTube was just coming online and businesses were trying to struggle to figure out, like, how do I use this thing called YouTube? And so we started shooting videos. And when I tell you guys, we started like at the bottom, we were shooting $800 television commercials for local car dealers, which is exactly as glamorous as it sounds. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, wow, if we could only get more of these, like, we'll be rich, right? Like $800. And like, listen, I went in undergrad, every elective I could study was in the business school. I should have probably done more math than business, because if I had stopped to do the math, I would have realized that was a stupid plan and it would never work. So we spent years, like 3-4 years, like collecting all these little bit clients and that, and then finally got the chance to pitch a bigger piece of business. Because what happened as we were doing video production is we were getting hired by other marketing agencies. And we figured out pretty quickly that these marketing agencies were terrible. I mean, they overcharged, they missed deadlines, strategies weren't that good, they didn't care about clients. And of course, me being me, I was like, well, we can do that better, right? So my business partner and I were like, we should just be a full service agency. So boom, overnight, now we're a full service agency. Look at us. And so we got the opportunity to pitch a piece of business and landed our first $1 million client. And that really set us up for a good 4 or 5 year growth trajectory.
That was what year?
That was in 2012, 2013.
Okay. And then, and what have you done since then? Where are you at? What do you look like today?
So let me give you the shortest story I can. So at our height, we were 4 offices, 3 in the US, 1 in Canada. We had clients all around the world, tons of employees. And we lost $1 million client and we had to do some layoffs, right? Which is very common in the agency business. But through that time, I figured out a lot about myself. And one of the things I figured out is that I don't particularly like to have 4 offices, 3 in the US, 1 in Canada, tons of employees and clients around the world. I actually, that wasn't the definition of success for me. And it was a real struggle to figure that out. Talk about getting honest with yourself. The reason I wrote this book, guys, is because I was not honest with myself. I had to learn the power of this stuff. And I was never really comfortable in those roles. Like, I didn't love managing people, but I didn't want to admit it because I had done it. I had built an Inc. 5000 multi-million-dollar operation. Shouldn't that be incredible? Like, that's success, right? But that's not success for me. Like, success for me is sitting at home doing this kind of stuff. I don't want to manage people. I don't even want to put pants on. You know what I mean? Like, coronavirus for me, fantastic. Not complaining. Get to sit at home, get to do my thing. And that was a real awakening and a shock to me to learn about myself. So, I still own that company, still does very well, but we are a little more diligent about who we work with, and who we do. And we've restructured the entire business. The entire way that we go about doing business is different, more deliberate, right? Though I never made choices growing our company. We took what was available and we spun that into the next thing, and down the path we went until we got to a place like we talked about earlier and realized, this isn't all that good. What's funny is I had a conversation with another agency owner about 5 months ago. He's a fellow author writing a book, comes out in September. And he was, the last time I saw him was like years ago in Chicago, and he was just building his agency. And he literally told me his entire story. It was the same thing as I got all these employees and all these guys. And then I was like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. And they fired all the employees. Seems to be a kind of a common thing. I don't know. But I was like, man, we should have each talked to each other when we were 25. But here's the thing, guys. If someone had told me at 25 that was going to happen, I would have told you were full of crap. So sometimes we just need to learn for ourselves.
Yeah. And bigger's not always better. And I mean, when you build a business, it's very common in my case and so many friends of mine, where you're doing business for everybody and anybody that asks you to, right? In many cases, you're even negotiating to do it for prices that you're going to lose money doing it, right? When you're young in business, it's like every dollar you think matters, and revenues are the driving factor, and employees. Well, look at look at the revenues we're doing. Look at the amount of employees we got. How cool is this, right? But in the long run, you're doing business with everybody. And so eventually, when you get a little more mature in business, I think you eventually say, boy, I got to figure out what I'm doing wrong, because the profits aren't where they should be. Or boy, I'm risking losing everything because I've got a lot of bad customers or teammates that don't understand how to do profitable business, right? Mm-hmm. And so eventually, I think you whether it's an 80-20 rule that you take up, or an EOS system or some type of system, you read some books and you say, oh my gosh, I don't have to be this crazy. I don't have to be this out of control. I can actually take great, look for great customers, not do business with everybody, and be a heck of a lot happier, right? I can look for great teammates and get rid of the ones that don't really care to be here. They're just here for a check. And boy, wouldn't that be fun? right? So I think that if people start early on with that attitude, maybe way further ahead than those that start like I did, where I did business with everybody, anybody, didn't care if they paid me in a day or a year, didn't value them any more or less, right?
Yeah.
So either way, I think you went through that. It sounds like, you can dive a little deeper if you want to. What made you change that, and then how did you change it? Did you use any business principles to do that, or what?
I just really dove into one of my top core values, which is lifelong learning. At the time, getting into the Inc. 5000 for a couple of years in a row, like we had access to that conference. I joined EO, and that, now I'm an EO board member. So, that organization has been transcendental, right? The whole forum. I don't know if you guys are familiar with EO, YPO, and their forum.
Very, very, very. I've been in YPO for 17 years now. Perfect. My son was in EO. He's now in YPO, but I think he's still in EO also. Good friends in EO, and of course, lots of friends in YPO. But yep. I think it's an unfair advantage, in my opinion, to belong to those organizations if you actually dive in and participate. Oh,
I totally agree. And those situations, getting in rooms with other entrepreneurs who were much smarter than I was, really gave me a lot of different perspective. I mean, I remember, one of my first forum meetings, one of my new forum mates at the time, this was 4 or 5 years ago now, was like, oh, I don't have any employees. I would never want employees. And I was like, what do you mean you don't want it? You can just not have employees. What does that even mean? Like, you get a multi-million-dollar business, 0 employees, 100% happy. And I was like, you can even do that? I mean, just like realizing that there are so many of these ways to build a business is fascinating. I went back to school. I had built $1 million company. Then I went to get an MBA at Columbia because I figured there was something I was missing. And boy, was I right. I mean, there were just so many fundamentals of business and profitability and scalability and investability that I didn't even know. And here I was, thinking, oh, wow, look at what I've done. Nothing, right? So, those types of things are what entrepreneurs get to do, right? We get to rip apart our business and rebuild it. We get the freedom of those choices, the freedom of learning, and the freedom of having to become an expert at so many things. And I think that's a gift that many founders don't understand how to receive. I didn't, and then capitalize on, take advantage of.
Yeah, good point. Good points for sure. And sometimes you become an employee in your business, and that's okay, right? But if that's all you want is a job, right? But if you can look outside, think outside the business at a 10,000, 50,000 foot level, right? Now you can look outside at how do you create this enterprise with real enterprise value that then becomes an engine to create value, not just to yourself, stockholders, and your teammates, right? If you're stuck in the business, and you are very often when you build it like we talked about initially, right? Boy, it's hard to get out of that. And it's hard to duplicate because you really can't duplicate because you don't have the right customers to duplicate. You don't have the right team members in the process to duplicate. But, that's right. But I love what your friend, I've got a couple of friends like this also that I'm like, man, that'd be cool, right? I mean, I like people a lot, and I like my teammates a lot. But boy, I have friends like you with no employees at all. They're pretty happy people, and they do really well. Yeah. And so again, I'm not saying that's for me because I'm okay with having a great bunch of teammates in these businesses and all that. And I think it's fun to provide opportunity for people to get in the first rung of the ladder in a business and work their way to the top rung and with great success and potentially equity and all the other things that can come along with people that really kick butt in every aspect of their career. Right. It's fun to see that happening underneath your watch. But again, there's something to be said for those that run great businesses and they outsource 99% of what they do and they still deliver an amazing product, right? Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, and not, I actually still have a team at my agency, and it's incredible. I would hire every single one of them again tomorrow if I could, and I think that is the difference. I'm super proud to be able to say that phrase that I'd hire them all back. I think that's one of the things I try to instill in the entrepreneurs I work with now, because if the answer is no, I wouldn't hire them. If they left tomorrow, that's a big problem. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Robbie, you know about that, right? I mean, think about the people around us that were like, and we don't have many, I don't think the Ravine group either, but they're out there where they're not bad people maybe, but they're not, they don't think with an abundant mind to be the most value they can be. When I think about this, I think about I know for sure when I was a kid mowing lawns and doing the things I did as a young person to make money, and then when I had my first job at $4 an hour, I knew for sure if I was of value on a day-to-day basis, I would watch what's going on around me. I'd work really hard. And in my mind, I'd say, was I worth more than $4 an hour today? Right. And maybe it's weird, but I've always thought that way in my life. And I know for sure when I first started in business, it was easy for me to understand, what were we worth it to our customer, my first driveway customer, or my first parking lot customer. Was I worth the money they spent on the product I delivered? And if I wouldn't be happy if I didn't think I was. And so I think it's a simple thing, but I'm a simple-minded guy. It's a simple thing, right? If you can always strive to be worth more than you're paid, right? As an employee, as a starting employee, a minimum wage employee, to a high-end executive, to a great entrepreneur that delivers great product that serves their customers well. If you can always strive to deliver more than you're paid for, you will have success, right? And that's kind of what you're doing now. If you've got teammates and you look around and say, none of these people would I not hire all over again. Boy, you got a great company, right?
Yep, absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah, Peter, so quick question along the exact same line. So I came from LinkedIn, actually. I spent 4 years with LinkedIn out in San Francisco and then in Chicago, and
cool.
Just before moving over to the Ray-Ban Group. So I'm always fascinated with hiring, onboarding, and how to retain top talent. So it seems like obviously that's really, really important to you, recognizing some of your own personal traits and what you value. So I'm interested in sort of a framework or questions that you ask during an interview process that help you weed out and mitigate the risk of maybe not hiring someone that 2 years later you would still make the same decision.
I have such a weird response to that question. I've never heard anyone else say it. So maybe I'm alone in this, but I don't feel qualified to figure out from an interview question or questions whether someone's going to work or not. So I'm a big fan of giving 3 people the job for 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks, I'll know pretty darn sure which one, to Gary's exact point, is going to be the one that thinks with the mentality and actually brings the work. I have found no better substitute than that.
Interesting.
Wow, that's cool. I don't know that anybody I know does that, so I love it. I think it's cool. I mean, why? I mean, a lot of people are in a job, so it's tough to do that maybe for us. But I like the idea, right? I mean, how cool would that be, Robbie? Right? If you can give 3 people a job, and the one that performs the most, the one that you can see meshes with your culture the best, it's no brainer. But and not many people do that. So that's an original thought. I'm sure somebody does it somewhere that you learned it from. But boy, that's cool. But can you do it? I mean, I think you can. If everybody you're interviewing doesn't have a job currently, yes, of course, right?
Yeah, right. And then I think also when you are giving those individuals the opportunity, it's a two-way street. And at the same time, it's a realistic job preview for them. Maybe they see after 3 weeks, it's not exactly what they assumed the opportunity was going to entail. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that both parties are enjoying where they're at.
Yep.
But I also think that there's a way that you can apply that when it comes to talent that's already been onboarded and making sure that really the career path that they have internally is really along the right lines for them for the long term. And I think it goes back to what you were mentioning earlier, Peter, is how do you define success for yourself? And then how can you map that definition of success to your long-term career? So do you guys have some sort of career development program in place that really aligns with performance management and getting them to the right long-term goals?
I wish we were all that sophisticated, Robbie. I mean, we really want folks to come and see GEM as an umbrella. We very seldom even give people much more than a loose framework of how we would like them to do their job. We do with our people like our clients do for us. Here's the goal. Here's what we're trying to achieve. Figure out the best, most efficient way to get there. And we're here if you need us. So I actually write about in my book that the managers who succeed the best, with the most honest approaches and leaders in the book, they're really coaches. They're really responsible for 2 things. One, empowering the line, right? The people that they manage with all the tools and information and insights and time and resources they need to go do a good job. And then number 2 is to get the hell out of their way and just be there when they have questions, when they need guidance, so often we get the reverse, the command and control style, I need to justify my middle management job and make it look like I'm doing something. Well, you are doing something by letting your people do their jobs. And I write about what that means, I call it a waterfall culture, and I tell the story of the Ritz-Carlton and how they not invented it, but they used it to become one of the best, most incredible hospitality brands in the world. And I don't think that's said enough out there. I have to say, the bigger the clients are, we've worked with a couple Fortune 500s now, and my Lord, the bigger those cultures are, the more BS is tucked up inside all of those layers that just simply prevents innovation, ideas from moving throughout the organization. It's sad. It was shocking to me when I came out of school and saw it, and now I'm just sad. So I did something and wrote a book about it.
Yeah, it's like keep politics in politics, right? Don't bring it into my business or any business. And I think that happens way too often. And again, great politics, in my opinion, great governance is run like a business, right? Efficient and streamlined. And there's not many that we can look at to say that that's being done. But in business, it's crazy that we let politics drive sometimes our decisions, right? And it does happen. It's happened in our business as we've grown. I think we're in a great space today. I don't think we have a lot of politics going on now. Although, you're not going to see it as the CEO as often as maybe you'd like. But either way, 100%, man, get rid of all the BS. And if you can allow your leaders to lead and actually make decisions with here's our goal. Here we got, let me know if you need help getting there, but on the way, share with me all you want or as little as you want. Got to get to the goal. This is a 1 month goal. Okay, here's a 6 month goal. Here's a 1 year goal. And man, it's pretty cool when somebody accomplishes those short term and long term goals for you, and you're just there. They're bouncing things off you, right? You're the coach, which is pretty cool.
Yep, and it's their system, and they're invested in the system, and they own the system. In my opinion, there's nothing better.
That's a great point. So tell us about your businesses. So you got the advertising agency. What else do you have?
Yep. So we have a little plaything tech startup called Stradeso that we only have a minimum viable solution for it, but it is up and live at stradeso.com. And essentially, it's a talent aggregator. So what we found is that there are a lot of folks out there, leaders and organizations that need to get content done, right? Copywriting, graphic design, but they don't want to hire people, right? It's a stupid thing to have to go through an HR problem to get a finished flyer or brochure, business card, right? And even Upwork and Fiverr, you still have to sift through all of these things and look at the designs and look at the copy and vet it and then hire the person and manage the person. So we stripped all of that out. So on Stradeso, it functions like an e-commerce site. You go and buy your flyer and you check out and you go through all the prompts like we would ask you as an agency, go through the creative brief. We connect it to folks that are available and vetted through our system. They turn it around and back to you. Nothing on that platform is above $300 and the turnaround 72 hours. So we'll see how that goes. We just literally floated out and had a couple test cases. I don't know if it's going to be a great business or not, but I'm a big fan of, I don't know. So I'm just going to test stuff. It's how I've always been. I think having studied the cultures in my book, I can tell you that the ones who take that approach, I don't know, that's a good idea. Let's just try it and see. Those are the ones that, of course, get to the great ideas. So I've become a lot more humble and honest about that recently.
Yeah. And so often people will take years and years to come to actually they'll have an idea for years and years they think about it, and they're modifying it and they're redoing it, and 3-4 years later they're ready to launch, and then oh man, I don't think it's perfect yet, right? And so the enemy to good is perfect, right? And so often I find that with engineering minds and accounting minds, people that are very organized thinkers, it's hard for them to stomach putting something on the market that's not perfect or they don't think is perfect. Well, you're going to lose every day if that's your mentality as an entrepreneur, right?
Totally.
You got to get the product out there. No, I'm not either, but people around me always are, and I'm not always, very often are. And I think that's so important to push and say, just get it in the market. We're going to tell our customers honestly, right? As you say, very honestly, that we're gonna build this and customize this for them, right? And no risk to them for the first X months. And once we launch it, they're gonna be a great valued partner that helped us get to market. And we're gonna reward them with lower costs, maybe, right? And we're gonna save them money with this product. So again, that's an idea, or that's the strategy, in my opinion, that gets great companies to market fast. Agreed. Instead of stagnation that sometimes stops a good idea ever getting to market, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah.
So that's cool. I like that idea. And so you're saying that, okay, you're saying if I have an event somewhere and I need some marketing fast, right? I need some marketing in a week. I throw all the ideas out there and what do you call it? Strategy?
Stradeso.
Stradeso. Stradeso. Wait, hold on. Say STRA.
Yeah, STRADESO.
Stradeso. Okay, so your Stradeso could actually do all the work, the artwork and all that kind of stuff, get it done within a short period of time, and then
that's right.
You could spit that off to your local sign company, whatever, or your digital marketing company, and spit out the marketing for it, right?
That's right.
That's cool. I like it. I got one for you that we can do after this call if you want, just so you know.
Cool.
I've got an idea that I think is very, very marketable, that if in speaking in front of a group of people, I don't want to use, I want this to be used for outside events without any type of screens and stuff like that, right? Or anywhere without the screen. So simply, here's the backdrop of this messaging, and here's a backdrop of this other messaging, and between the two of those, if you understand these messages, you'll come to a conclusion that I think is paramount, right? So that's something I'll talk to you about if I can afterwards. I think
cool.
It could be interesting. Okay, so what other businesses?
So I was in real estate for 8 years, but literally the pandemic had me sell everything because prices have been so good. It's been such a seller's market.
Where at? What area?
In Connecticut.
Okay.
Yep.
So the market's gone up because of the pandemic?
Oh, it's nuts here. I mean, people are buying houses sight unseen.
Why?
I think we're getting the influx from New York. Yeah. I think people are moving out of the city and into the burbs, and I can see New York from my patio, so we're not that far here, but so exited out of those, which is good because it turns out marketing a new book is not cheap. So I was able to, move some stuff around, and
awesome.
Yeah, we'll get back into it. But now my wife and I have always wanted to go like south. We're looking like palm trees. So I said to her, why don't we just rent here and go buy a flip or something in Florida? So we're thinking about it.
Awesome. Yeah, and your taxes are high there in Connecticut?
You could say that. Yeah, I would say yes. That's an understatement, I would say.
Real estate taxes, are they 2 or 3% of the value?
Everything is.
About 2 to 3%. What is the percentage of value? Do you know?
I'm not sure. No.
Okay. Yeah, because Illinois is the highest right now. I think we just nudged out New Jersey that was the highest.
Wow.
But either way, it's amazing that properties are selling well and your taxes aren't that low, but probably less than New York anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
No, totally.
Cool. Okay, so real estate. So you're in just like flipping properties, that kind of stuff?
Yep. We've done flips. We've done condo rentals. We've done 3 families. Yeah.
So that's another little entrepreneurial endeavor.
Yeah, I treat them as little businesses, which I think is sort of fun and fun to watch. Like now, I've come from 2008, which is when I got out of college, through all that bull market, and now seeing what happened with this year. So I'm getting a sense of the timing, which is nice. So I would say investing in my 20s was luck, and now going forward, I'll have a little bit more of like an awareness of whether the market's going up, down, or whatever.
Sure.
So, but that's a fun. But I think everyone should understand how real estate works.
Absolutely.
And I wish upon folks that they would think more critically about their home and how their home can function much more like a business instead of like a sunk, ego-driven cost. In fact, I think that my next book will be centered around like, how do you live and think about all the areas of your life like a business would think about the areas of its life, and create, profit, so to speak, in whatever, happiness, fulfillment, income, retirement savings, whatever you want to call it. So I don't think enough people understand that like their home, like my wife and I basically lived for free for like 12 years because we keep moving and flipping and investing. And that's a powerful idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, and like you're saying, anything, the benefit of building a profitable entity of any type is that hopefully you're able to do more good stuff with it. And I look at, friends of mine, and we participate in some nonprofits through our foundation and all that. And very often nonprofits, just think about how they can spend money and not really how they can create more income, right? Because it's almost like an oxymoron to say we're going to make any profit. But really, a nonprofit, if it makes profit, if it can make profit to reinvest in the nonprofit, that's the best of all worlds, right?
Of course.
And very, very seldom does it happen because people are in nonprofits because they're proud of not being part of that evil thing called profits. And they don't, and some of them don't get it, but the only way that really they survive is somebody's profits, right?
I couldn't
and
agree
boy,
more.
if in your nonprofit you can actually create produce something that creates value, boy, you got profits. Don't call them profits. Don't do that, right? But profits that can actually keep the wheels spinning, right? And the engine going. So again, I agree with you. You can have fun and create an enterprise out of anything. And I think it should be the driving force of any team to be successful. And successful, one way to measure, of course, is profits to reinvest in the engine to be more successful.
Totally.
So yes, entrepreneurship is a blast. What are your biggest niches now? Think about your marketing company now and the marketing company in the future that you have today. What do you feel like is your biggest niches that you're successful in, your strongest differentiators that are going to create your success for tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're doing at the agency is helping particularly manufacturing companies figure out how to do this whole online thing. Because these are folks that went and hung out at the trade show bar and did $5 million of deals, and they can't do that anymore. So now they're all sitting around wondering, that V word, virtual trade show, doesn't compute. Now, I'm 34, so I'm looking at it as, why would anybody get on a plane and go to Chicago? And I mean, I love the Gibson steak as much as anyone else, but there are so many other things we can do online and in a scalable, predictable, measurable way. So it's actually been fun to work with some manufacturing companies and help them understand, what is a virtual trade show booth? How can your website actually be a virtual trade show booth? So that's been great. And
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's great. And Gibsons are friends of mine, actually. What a great
Are they really?
joint. And
I love that place so much.
What a great restaurant. Actually, Steve, I want to get on there's Steve Senior and Steve Junior. Steve Senior, they're both white PRs, and Steve's about 45, I think. And what a great guy. His dad also great people. And they're just very strong entrepreneurs in the food and beverage world. Yeah. And in Chicago right now, it's a tough place to be, of course, as you probably know. And they're still they're still figuring it out, but it's not easy, right? But I'm going to get them on the show eventually. But again, that's quite a brand, right? They created a brand. You come to Chicago, you got to go to Gibson's, right?
Yeah, and I do every time.
And that's something. Yeah, it's funny. But either way, okay. So you think about virtual trade shows. I agree. I think that we've not. Robbie, I don't think we've ever done it, right? But I think that's an awesome idea to build your site like a virtual trade show, and then boy, why not even do virtual trade shows, right? Get them help get those revved up and going. Any experience with those, Robbie?
We haven't yet. Ironically, actually, this afternoon, I'm having a conversation with RE Journals in regard to joining in on a virtual trade show that they have in September. So I think that'll be our first endeavor, at least partaking in it ourselves. But I also think there's ways we could apply it internally.
So Peter could help us probably be a little stronger in that virtual trade show than us trying to do ourselves. So.
Yeah, be a lot of fun. It's not rocket science, but it really takes thinking through the physical process. It's like someone walks up to your booth. What do they see? Why do they walk in? What do you say to them? How do you build a relationship? It's that simple, and also, of course, that complicated once you put it into scripts and videos.
So we could probably have Robbie dressed up a little sexier than today. Somehow we can virtually do something that pretty him up a little bit. You're thinking?
I was thinking like a sandwich board, and then one of those crazy feather hats, something in that direction.
All right, there you go. Okay, thanks. So Robbie, remember that. We don't have to pay Peter for that now. We'll get
Robbie,
else.
You're welcome. Yep.
Yes, yeah. I should have just turned on voice dictation on Amazon quick and had it ordered already.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I've not been involved in any virtual trade shows yet, but boy, I'm sure they're going to get to be very popular. So
It's coming. And even if we think that we're going to go back to in person, it will at least continue to be hybrid. I think forever. Yeah. I mean, why not?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. That's cool. What else do you see for the future? What do you look at? What's your big audacious goals or your what do you look at as your definitive purpose and where you're going to go? Any kids or anything? Wife and kids yet?
Wife, yes. Oversized dog, yes. Kids, no. My biggest goal now for the next 4 years, literally, I was just talking about this last night with my wife, is I have peer groups for entrepreneurs, typically entrepreneurs from like startup to 5 million or so in revenue, who can't, the bigger ones, of course, they could just go into EO, right? But under $1 million, there's nothing for them. So, one of the things I have done is brought all the benefits of Forum that you know about down to the startup entrepreneurs. And that program is changing lives. I have a little under 20 people in the program now, and I would like to impact 1,000 startup entrepreneurs with that program, just because of how life-changing it is. I mean, I don't have to explain to you, Gary. I mean, just a life-changing program.
Absolutely. I love it. We have a thing called True Mentors that's very similar to that. We have about 50 some CEOs and presidents, YPO, EO members and stuff that are mid-sized businesses that are mentoring young people that want to be leaders in business, or maybe they're small startups themselves. So it's startups, it's leaders that want to be executives, and all that being mentored by people that have been there and done it. Mm-hmm. And we build the platform much like you probably do, sharing experiences, not telling people what to do, right?
Yep.
All the right structure of what Forum should be, and all the right mentorship traits that we ask for, so that mentorship can be really bad if it's somebody telling somebody what to do and somebody listening and doing what somebody's telling them to do, instead of sharing experiences and letting that person do what they feel is best for them, right? Mm-hmm. With no skin in the game, basically. Yep. So yeah, that's all that you're doing something that will affect many lives, and we're having some pretty good stories of people that have done some really incredible things through this program. We've had for about 6 or 7 years now.
Wow, that's awesome.
But anyway, it's a lot of fun, right? When you can give somebody the structure and the leadership traits maybe or experiences that can help propel them. It's fun.
That's what it's all about.
And have you always been in Connecticut? Always been on the East Coast?
Always been East Coast. My wife says I'm an East Coast guy. I think she's making fun of me, but I'm not sure how. I grew up in Boston though. So I grew up in Boston, went to undergrad there, and did an MBA in New York. And so now I'm here in Connecticut. We started our companies here, which, because my wife is from here. So that's why I moved down. Turns out, though, that was a blessing because we were able to rise up in, New Haven, Connecticut. Nobody's in New Haven. Nobody gives a crap about New Haven. So we didn't have to compete against Mullen Lowe in Boston and every Madison Avenue agency in New York. So it was a gift of sorts.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard great things about that area. It's beautiful.
There are parts.
So what else do you like to do? What other things do you like to do as far as competitively, or you're a competition guy as a young guy? What do you do to compete? Just business or what?
Now I'm just fat and lazy. It's really a problem. I was lamenting this the other day that retired Peter plays a lot more golf and a lot more tennis. So I think I need to retire a little faster. I did martial arts through my mid-20s. Now I just watch Netflix, which are not compatible with one another. So that's a problem. That's an area of my life that I've not focused on. It's because honestly, guys, this book has taken everything out of me. It's been a 4-year masochistic journey of inexcellence. And now that literally it's 2 weeks ago that I just published it. So I can actually feel like the catharsis of okay, there's a downhill slope after the uphill climb. I'm really looking forward to this fall and being able to clear my head and focus on some other things.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. And you're a young kid, so you've experienced a lot of stuff for a young guy. So now it's a matter of saying, okay, what's the next 10 years going to be like, right? How do I try to be the best I can be in the next 10 years, right?
Next 6 to 7, 40. I don't know if I'm going to work past 40. I mean, come on, there's too much golf to play out there.
I thought that too. You want to golf at a real golf course? I got one out here. Okay, so come to Illinois. I got the best golf course in the Midwest.
I love it.
Yeah. So, all right. Hey, Robbie, what do you got? Any more questions? Any more questions for Peter, or what are your thoughts, buddy?
I do actually. Going back to Stradeso, I really like the idea of that, and I think it reduces the friction that's in the, like you mentioned, the Fiverr or Upwork or whatever other tools are out there. So I guess it's double-layered question. First layer is, was the original hypothesis on your end reducing the friction and streamlining the process of getting to the client what ultimately they need without as much investment and time? And then the second question that will go along with it is an interest if you guys have actually brainstormed applying that exact same mentality, but internally for utilizing your own employees to their ultimate potential.
So yes to both. I mean, we have talked about, so yes, the initial insight came out of the frustration and ever shrinking budgets of marketing departments, and even in-house marketing departments really don't have a good way to scale talent. They do it by having all these outsourced relationships, but then somebody has to manage the relationships. And it always came back to an HR problem. So that was the insight. And then, yeah, I mean, pretty much that's what we have. We have a small team, a small core team at GEM, and everything else is outsourced on a similar system. That's sort of how we all of that sort of coalesced at once. It was like, oh, we could use this. Probably other agencies could use this. Clients could certainly use this. So, yeah.
Yeah, and part of the way that I'm actually envisioning that you could include it as an add-on would be, hypothetically, it's the Ray buying group, and we have a need that's within operations or estimating, or maybe it's sales and marketing, and you can post it as the equivalent of like an SOW, like a statement of work. What are you looking for? And that post then is sent out company-wide, and maybe there's someone else internally that has an extra half hour or an hour during the week, and you can utilize your own talent to actually absorb a project. And on the other end, they could click a button that offers the ability to say, yes, I'll take ownership on this project, and here's the date, I'll return it back to you. And then at the same time, if no one internally is able to take it, you have all of the individual contractors externally that could absorb the project.
That's exactly, you must have peered back at our code. That's exactly how the system works. Literally, nice. It looks like a message board. You know, all the projects go up and people can select them and claim them, and then they get their countdown timer. And yeah, it's exactly right.
Nice. No, it's a brilliant idea. I know we had that at LinkedIn too. So if I ever had free time, I could go to, it was a Go link, but Go / and I think it was like special projects, or it's not the exact term, but every department internally would just have projects that they were looking for someone to absorb. And you could just check a box that said, I'm willing to do this work in my free time and take on the project yourself. And it's an interesting opportunity to ultimately build out a more depth or even breadth to your skill sets. And it's advantageous for your long-term careers as long as you're a lifelong learner.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, and it's gotten to the point where like now my business partner and I are like, okay, how do we bring this to market with a CAC to LTV ratio that makes sense? And I haven't quite wrapped my mind around it, because getting someone in to try it right now costs so much relative to how much I think they'll spend at first. And it's a spotty thing, right? It's projects. So you may have a project now and then in 6 months. So we have to find a more appropriate way to, ironically, to advertise it. So that's sort of where we're at, trying to figure out what, and we've never raised money, right? So we would, but I'm sort of a bootstrap purist. So that's the other thing, right? That would be the easy thing. Go raise money and take a J curve. Right. I'm thinking about it.
Cool. Seems like you got life figured out.
Oh no. That's it. Remember I told you I have acting skills? That's the acting coming through. Yeah. No. Nobody. One of the things I make sure I say on these podcasts is nobody has their shit figured out. Nobody. You know, we're all searching for the next thing. We're all struggling with whatever. We all have challenges. We all like, I hate this thing where people are like, oh, well, I heard that guy on the podcast and he has it figured out, and I guess I need to be more like him. It's like, no, be more like you. That's fine. That's enough. It's always enough.
Yeah, as soon as you think you have everything figured out, then God will throw you a curveball, and it's all up in the air.
Every time.
Every
time, Gary, that I was like, all right, this is all good, right? Everyone's set up and we're making money in this. Boom, terrible thing happens. And every time I've been like, oh my gosh, we're going to go out of business. Like, we're never going to make it. It's like, oh, well, there's a client out of nowhere. That was weird. I've just learned to like, it's, I don't know if you guys know the proverb of the horse and the horseshoe and the war and all. Have you ever heard that one?
No, I don't think so.
It's oh no, it's not that one. It's the other one about the farmer and the horse. Yeah. So a farmer and his son lived on a mountain in China, years and years and years ago. And a horse wandered into their stable, and they didn't have a horse. So now they had a horse, and all the neighbors came over and they were like, "You have a horse? That's amazing. How lucky." And the farmer said, "Yeah, maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. I don't know." And so, a few weeks go by, and the horse actually breaks through the fence that they had built and runs away. And the neighbors are like, "Oh my God, that's horrible. I can't believe that." And the farmer's like, "Oh, maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. I don't know." Not one night later, the horse comes back and brings 3 more horses with it. And all the neighbors are like, "This is incredible. You're the luckiest guy in the world. The heck?" And he goes, "Maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. I don't know." So the son, he says, "Oh, now we've got 4 horses. I'm going to train them, right?" But in training the horse throws him off his back, and the son breaks his leg. And the neighbors come over and they said, "This is horrible. How are you going to tend your fields? I mean, your son's leg is broken. He can't help you." He said, "I don't know. Maybe this is good. Maybe this is bad. I don't know." And a week later, the emperor's army came marching through the village, taking every able-bodied young man off to war. And so the son was sitting at home. He couldn't fight. And the neighbor said, "That's incredibly lucky. I don't know how you do it." And he said, finally, "Maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. I don't know." And so I've learned to adopt that mentality now in business and life, and because we just don't know.
You don't know. You're right. That's exactly right. So roll with the punches, right? I mean,
That's right.
Life isn't perfect, and as soon as you think you got it all figured out, you realize you don't, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the fun part of life. I mean, be ready for what's thrown at you, because you're going to have some big challenges in your life. And when you get through those, you'll feel like at least you've won in some respect. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
Yeah,
so
that's it. On to the next thing.
I agree. What do you got? So Robbie, we go over our takeaways. Robbie, what do you got for takeaways from our all-star here, our buddy Peter?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, so Peter, we usually like to just summarize key points that our listeners can ultimately take away moving forward. And so I have 5 for today.
That's a great practice. I've never been on a podcast that did that. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's just a good synopsis that you can digest everything that we talked about today. So the first takeaway is to think long-term, but to think long-term under your own premises of success. So create a definition of success for yourself, and then reverse engineer what you need to be doing today, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, but making sure that you're inching towards whatever that definition is of success for yourself. The second is don't do something half-assed. And I think it's an incredibly simple point, but an important point. And you need to make sure that you work with passion, and making sure that you're working with passion ultimately limits the amount of individuals who half-ass their work. And as long as it's in line with their long-term career and definition of success, and I think you can call that a win. I have a feeling you probably get that in Honest to Greatness one way or another.
You bet.
The third is constantly question status quo. How can we do it more efficiently? How can we do it more effectively? In the moment that you take a seat ultimately in the back seat and let the world pass you by, that's when you lose your innovative edge. So I like the idea of questioning the status quo. And I like the way that you positioned great leaders. So empower your team with the tools, training, coaching, materials, etc. For success, and then get the hell out of the way and let them do their own thing, create their own process system. And then at the end of the day, everyone will likely do it differently. You can uncover best practices, and then that's how you guys come together as a team, is sharing those best practices and improving in the future. Lastly, treat your life like a business. And I really think that that's important, regardless of if you're a fresh grad from college and high school or even late stage career, as making sure that you're optimizing for, at the end of the day, is if it's learning, go and tackle the new skills that you want to gain. If it's your retirement that you want to approach, then put together quantifiable metrics of what it is that you need to retire at what specific age, and how you can map your life out to get there. So thanks today, Peter.
It's my pleasure, guys. Thanks for being honest.
Peter. Yeah, Peter, thanks a lot. And you know what? Honest to Greatness is an awesome title. I mean, I remember growing up, my mom and other people would say, honest to goodness, honest to goodness. I was like, why not honest to greatness? I love it, man. Great job. Great title.
Thank you.
And so I appreciate that. I can't wait to read the book. Is it on Audible yet?
No, we just signed the contracts for that now. It's out in hardcover and ebook, and it'll be on Audible in probably November, December.
Yeah, I'll have time down the road to read, but lately it's all been Audible for me. But either way, I got to read your book for sure, and I really appreciate you being on. So, Peter Kozodoy, right? Kozodoy, right?
You got it.
I got it right. Peter Kozodoy, man, you're gonna kick butt and you're gonna set the world on fire. Can't wait to continue to watch it. So, if you're ever in Chicago, look us up. If I'm in Connecticut, I'm coming looking for you. And I'd also look up Stradeso on this project I got too, to find out if it's something you guys can do. So
cool.
Thanks for everything, man. You're
Reach
awesome.
out anytime, guys. It's great to hang.
So thanks for being on. Thanks for being on Ditch Digger CEO. See you, buddy.
All right.
Thanks a bunch. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
That was great.
Appreciate your time, bud.
Sure, my pleasure.
Hey, Peter, let me tell you about that project really quick. You got 5 minutes? So here's what it is. I've got the biggest Trump rally in Illinois history probably coming up. There's not a lot, Illinois is a very far left, kind of like Connecticut, I think, pretty far left area.
Yeah.
I'm a strong conservative, and I really believe we'll be in trouble with it if we have a Biden president. So I'm involved in doing what I can to help push this guy across the finish line one more time. Anyway, so I got a Trump thing coming up at my golf club, and we're gonna have 3,000 to 5,000 people. Okay. But what I want to roll out is, my goal is to turn Illinois red. So my goal is Illinois is a very corrupt state where we have the most debt of any state by far in the country. We've been Democratic run 98% of the time for the last 100 years, right? And it hasn't gotten us a lot of good. And again, I don't care, Democrat or Republican, we're a corrupt state, and we need to clean it up. And the only way to clean it up, in my opinion, I've got a plan I built for the last 10 months to a year now with some super smart people in the country. And I treat it like a business, right? If I'm in business, I want core values that really guide on who we pick for positions in our business. If I'm in business, I build the core values and the initiatives that have to get accomplished. And then I build a team. I don't go out and say, this person's a perfect, politician. Let's bring him in. That person will be a perfect candidate for a congressman or woman or a senator or governor, right? So just like building a business, I built seven initiatives that, if done, would make Illinois a blue sky state with low debt and all these low debt and great opportunity, right? Lower taxes. But to do that, also, just like business, we have to create simple messaging, just like your book, right? Simple messaging that grab people. So I have two things. I've trademarked a thing called tax theft, and I'm defining it as any tax that's above the average of the country. So if it's a little bit, 10 or 20%, we'd call it a misdemeanor. Just a little bit more, we can get that back in line, right? And then we have a felony, which is 20% to 80% more than the rest of the country. Yeah, that's a felony. That's serious, right? But then we have treason. Okay, and then think about colors: yellow, red, and then flashing red, right? For treason. Yep. So 80% or more than the average of the country could be considered treason, right? Hang that freaking tax from the highest tree, murder that tax today, because it is screwing up and robbing and stealing from taxpayers of Illinois, right? Mm-hmm. So that's any tax over 80%. And when we measure the top 20 taxes in the country, we're treasonous more than we're felonies right now. And we have only 1 or 2 misdemeanors where we're within 5 or 10% of the average of the country. And they're taxes that don't mean anything, or they're kind of new taxes, okay? So anyway, so tax theft, and a tax theft meter is the visual I want, so that I can set the meter. Let's just use property tax we talked about. Your state, I think, is around 2% or 2.5% is what you pay in taxes based on value. So if you have $1 million house, you're going to pay $25,000 a year in tax. In Illinois, you're going to pay $35,000 to $40,000 for that same house in tax. Okay. Wow. So we're the highest. But bottom line is, when I look at this, the country, the average is 1.1%, or 11,000 on $1 million, right? 1.1%. Mm-hmm. So when I look at that tax theft meter, at 12 o'clock is the average of the country, that circular meter. 12 o'clock is the average of the country, 1.1%. So when we look at Illinois, the meter goes all the way to 185% on average, more than the rest of the country, right? That's freaking treason, like in a big way. It's that you're killing the value of all these homes, of course, right? And ruining the net worth of all these people. This is theft at the highest level. So think about that. Then I got, so you got that tax that you can measure any of the top 20 most important taxes that people think about: gas tax, commercial property tax, income tax, whatever. All those you can put any of them up there on the average, and then measure where you're at compared to the rest of the country. And what type of theft is it, right? Is it actually treasonous? Is it whatever? Then you have on the other side, the other simple messaging piece I have, it's called worst to first, okay? You're a leader in business and I am too. So what do? We try to get people we try to inspire people to be the best they can be. We try to inspire ourselves and our businesses to be world-class, right? We can't do that without inspiring people to have a vision beyond what they have today, okay? So I look at worst to first and I say, okay, we are the worst at like almost, when I say worst, when the last 5, you guys are in a couple of these categories too, by the way.
Oh, I know.
We are number 50 in more things than anybody else. When you measure the top 10 or 20 things that you measure when it comes to good state, bad state, state where you want to raise your kids and family, state where you want to have a job and opportunity, a state where you want to have less violence and murder, okay? We are in the bottom 5 of 50, so the bottom 10%. In almost everything that measures good state, bad state. And we weren't there. Only 13 years ago, we were one of the best states in the country to do business, buy property, on and on and on, right? Now we're the worst. And how did that happen? So worst to first is something that gets us to aspire to be better, because we say, okay, we're worse at, let's use out migration and in migration, okay? We're number 50 worst right now. Who's first? Now you look at Tennessee. So you look at Tennessee. What makes Tennessee first? How are they kicking the shit out of us, right? And then you go into how and why and what's happened in the last 13 years. So they weren't that great of a place to be 13 years ago. And we were one of the best in the country, the best in the Midwest for sure. Wow. Now we suck. We're the worst in the country, worst in the Midwest. All right. And what happened? So it's a way of saying bluntly, worst to first, and then aspirationally, don't we want to compete? I mean, most people compete at something in their lives and want to be good or great, right? Nobody wants to be last. So it's 2 things. It's tax theft and it's worst to first, that you can have great conversations all day long with any audience and build it for the audience, by the way, right? If it's an audience that's labor and minimum wage workers, okay, there's taxes they care about and there's things they care about being great at, right? If it's CEOs and landowners and real estate people, leaders, then it's a whole different story, right? So again, I want to be able to do it digitally, of course, but then I also want to be able to do it on a stage anywhere, to be able to bring the stuff and say, hey man, let me show you just a couple of quick visuals and some messaging that we built to describe how bad Illinois is and how great we could be, right? And if we could build the visuals for that, right?
Why don't we just do like a 90-second video for you, and you hit play and does all the work for you? Graphics moving around and shifting, and like, here's Illinois and Tennessee, and they swap and how. And
yeah. That could be a good way to do it, right? So have those 2 things in the background, right? Whatever, and be talking about these different things. Take the 4 or 5 things that matter most, or maybe just 2 or 3 things that matter most on worst to first. 2 or 3 things that matter most on taxation, right? And just do a quick like 2-minute video on it, right?
Yeah, well, the whole idea is to spread the word. So why not give people an asset to watch and share? I would ask.
Yeah, you can do a short video, and you can do a long video, right? You can do a 10-minute video that goes into 10 taxes and 10 things. But,
you can, but if you can,
not as many people watch it.
If you can put it into 2.5, 3 max, it's nice.
Okay, so your company would be a good one to work with on that.
Yeah, that's exactly the type of stuff we do. Actually, if you go to stradeso.com and watch the video, just hit watch video, you see that's a video we did for Stradeso. We could do the same thing for you.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna look at that, and then I just go online to jump in and get somebody to help, or what?
That just email me. Yeah, Peter at gem-advertising.com. So gem-advertising.com. Okay.
Okay, we got it. I know Chris has got it. So good. All right, bud. Well, thanks for everything, Peter. I really appreciate your time, man.
Yep. Always good to meet another, EOYPO. We just have such common connectivity,
We do. Yeah. I mean, it's fun. You learn the basics of leadership and they're all kind of similar, and it's not rocket science, right? It doesn't change that much from 100 years ago to today. It won't change the next 100 years.
Shocking, huh?
Exactly.
All right, guys.
Bart, thanks
Thanks
a
so
lot.
much.
Appreciate your time. Have a
Take
great
care.
night.